This is a Thompson Cast. I am Mel Thompson. Cabinda is a portion of Angola that is quite restive. It is a province, for lack of a better way to describe it, and it produces up to 70% of Angola's oil output. And of course, Cabinda would like to have its own independence. This is not going to happen anytime soon, and it probably will never happen. And for quite some time, the folks in Cabinda have been fighting the Angolan government, trying to obtain their elusive independence with no success. The United States has trade relations and foreign relations with Angola, and they've had them since Angola left the idea behind of trying to be aligned with the former Eastern Bloc nations sometime in 1989 or so. So before the Soviet Union completely collapsed, but during the time frame in which the collapse was well on its way, Angola decided to become less dependent and less aligned with Russia and former Soviet allies and try to make its focus the Western nations, including the United States. And the result has been trade relations and U.S. aid. The issue with the oil exports and the fact that there is civil unrest, fighting within the area where 70% of the oil comes from is of great concern to those who have benefited from the trade relations between Angola and the United States when it comes to energy markets. This is something that cannot be ignored, and it's been going on for quite some time, but now it's getting to the point where you really don't know which way it's going to go with the next few years. We've seen quite a few examples in the Middle East of countries deciding to convert to a different form of government. And I say that in a very, very cautious way because not every form of government is a democracy as we would recognize it or know it, but they are much more democratic in some respects than they were previously. I do not expect the same type of situation to develop between Angola and Cabinda, but I will say that it wouldn't shock me if there was a Angolan spring at some point where this province decided it had finally had enough and it was able to break free of Angola, which in that case would render Angola's oil output pretty darn low. The government has agreed to give 10% of the oil reserves per year to Cabinda, but that's not enough for the people. They would like much more. And their argument is that the oil production is going up and the prices are going up and we're not benefiting sufficiently. This is enough to continue the civil strife, if you will, for quite some time until there's an agreement. There's not going to be an agreement anytime soon, so I would be very cautious in foreign direct investment in any type of energy markets in Angola, particularly in oil. Even though this has been going on for quite some time, there's no time like the present to be more cautious when you have people fighting each other and oil is the issue. We've seen this in other African nations. We've seen this in the Middle East. We've seen it in other parts of the world. And the foreign direct investor at all times is the vulnerable party in that situation. Not the combatants, the person who has put their own money at risk in projects to extract and obtain oil and get a return on that investment through the sale of the oil on the markets, energy markets. That person could be subject to losing everything at any time, depending on how the conflict comes out and depending on who's in power. Policies are probably going to be in flux for quite some time regarding this issue, particularly if the unrest continues and gets worse. There may be some quick actions taken by the Angolan government to quell unrest, And these are the types of things that could happen so quickly that foreign direct investors could not possibly have anticipated or been ready for them precisely. This is why a good bit of research needs to be done on oil markets as far as their entry to oil markets in Angola. Look at all of the export sectors, including transportation, and then make an educated decision as far as how much or if you even want to get involved in Angolan oil markets. This is something that is very, very much in flux, and I certainly would caution any foreign direct investor to take great care and concern when dealing with Angola overall in our trade relations with them, but particularly when it comes to the area of oil because of the great focus on this one area of the country where 70% of the oil output comes from. This has been the Thompson Cast. I am Mel Thompson.